What's up everyone, it's Justin here with the Real Keeper Home Team and welcome back to our channel Everything Jax Real Estate. In today's video, we're going to be doing our market update report for the Jacksonville Beaches in the Jacksonville Southside area as it pertains to February of 2024. In this video, we're going to be highlighting the amount of homes in the market, we're going to be highlighting the prices of those homes, the days on market, and also looking at how they progress from where they get listed at to where they sell at. And also the trends of where they've been at 6 months, even 1 month ago, and where we think they're going to go as we go in the rest of this year. So before we do get into that though, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notified when we post more content like this in the future. All right, now when I come back, we're going to go over the report. All right, welcome back. So as mentioned, this is going to be the market update report for the Jacksonville Beaches and the Jacksonville Southside area here in Jacksonville for February 2024. So the first thing we're going to look at is we want to look at how many homes hit the market, how many homes are under contract, and what was that pending to list ratio as far as how many homes are under contract in relation to the total number of listings that either were on the market or hit the market in February. And what you can see is we had 157 homes or sales pending in February. That left us with roughly 351 homes left that did not have contracts, which overall was about 508 homes total that were on the market in February. The ratio that this gave us was 30.9% of homes that were on the market were under contract in February. This is a good number to know because when you start getting those higher percentages, in this case 30% is definitely starting to get a little bit higher again. It's higher than it was last month. What it tells us is it tells us that the market is picking back up, and even though we're seeing more listings on the market, the pendings are actually outpacing the amount of homes in the market, at least for February, which is what caused the ratio to go up to 31%. So that's something that we're going to want to definitely keep an eye on, because what we foresee happening currently with what we're seeing here in Jacksonville is it would not surprise us to see that percentage go up further as we go into the next couple months as well. Just because we are seeing more buyers come back to the market since the start of the year. It does seem like a lot of people kind of waited till after the holidays, but really since January, things have really picked up across the board, not just for buyers, but also for sellers, here in Jacksonville, and specifically the Beaches and Southside area. So what you can also see is that we had homes in the $400,000 to $600,000 price range made up the majority of those pending sales. This is a continuing theme from previous months. And it's just to highlight the fact that most homes that do tend to hit the market in this area are going to be in that price range, which is also why homes in that price range made up the majority of homes that were on the market as listings in February. We also saw that the median list price was $699,000, which just means that even though we're seeing most homes pending between $400,000 and $600,000, a lot of sellers who may end up closer to 600 are starting maybe a little bit higher. And there's also more homes in these areas over that $400,000 to $600,000 range than under it, which is why the median list price is higher than the median amount of median price for the majority of homes in the market. And this also is higher than we saw last month by about roughly, I want to say about $20,000 to $25,000 more this month than just last month alone. Doesn't mean sellers are getting it, it just means sellers are starting to push their prices up a little bit more now that we're starting to get back into more of that buying season of the spring and summer here. You can also see here that the graph that we're looking at, it kind of highlights the amount of pendings and it highlights the amount of listings on the market for a given area, in this case the Beaches and Southside, for February. And this graph actually is very similar to January's. There's not really much changes there. But what it tells us is it really tells us that there are quite a few homes between, we'll call it 200,000 and $1 million. We'll call it 800,000. Between 200,000 and 800,000, there are quite a few homes still available compared to how many are actually under contract. And so what that means is if you are a buyer, there are still options out there, and there is a little bit less competition because there is more inventory for you to be able to find a house in those price ranges in this area. If you're a seller, it also means that if you're in that price range of anywhere from, like I said, 200,000 to 800,000, there's a good possibility that you will have some competition. But at the same time, a lot of that competition may have been on the market for a little bit longer, and therefore is sometimes what's considered a stale listing in today's world. And so they being buyers may not necessarily look at those homes in the same way they look at your house when you go and hit the market for the first time. But it is to highlight that there is competition for you when you decide to hit the market. We also saw that there was a total of 686 contracts. I don't know where I got 698 from. Total of 686 contracts that closed in the last 6 months. This is really about the same as we saw in January, which was 687. And the biggest thing to highlight here is you have to kind of think about sometimes with this spot in the videos, what are we really looking at here? Well, we're looking at the last 6 months. Well, what are the last 6 months? It's going to be January, December, November, October, September, August. But the majority of those months, specifically October through December of last year, the fourth quarter of last year, the real estate market really started to slow down some. And there's reasons for that. One of which was the fact that rates had gone to their highest they had been in quite a long time, but prices hadn't come down to really offset that enough, and therefore a lot of buyers who either wanted to buy and now couldn't because of the higher rate, or wanted to buy but decided they could wait to see if rates could come down some, didn't enter the market in that fourth quarter of last year. So therefore, not a lot of sales occurred, and that's why for the next few months, January, this month, and even next month, probably for March, a lot of the data, maybe even April, a lot of the data is going to kind of show some of these lower numbers of contracts that closed because the months that's pulling from were slower than typical months, especially December. Normally December actually does have a little bit of an uptick, but we didn't see that so much last year due to the rates going up where they did go to. Since rates have now started to come down a little bit since the beginning of January, we are starting to see that that uptick along with seasonality of homes going under contract and selling. Obviously, looking at this too, the median sold price was around $550,000 for the last 6 months. That's very typical to kind of see that as far as that difference between what homes are being listed for versus what they've sold for. And what you normally see, especially in today's video, is that when we're comparing the last 6 months compared to the last month, you will see a sharp difference between what homes have been selling for in the last 6 months versus last month. We also did see too that the majority of homes that did sell were between that $400,000 to $600,000 price point, which is again very typical for this area. So it's not atypical that the most homes going under contract, the most homes on the market, and the most homes selling are in that price range, because that's the price range that is typically where you're going to find the majority of your inventory in the Beaches and Southside areas. We did also see that 191 homes failed to sell in the last 6 months. Now this is a drop off from last month of about, call it 15 or so homes. And what it tells us is that less homes are failing to sell. And part of that's because a lot of these sellers who don't necessarily have a reason to sell, they just want to see what they can get, aren't hitting the market as often now as they were, because of the fact that they understand where the market's at, and they understand that they may not necessarily get top dollar for their home, so there's no need to really try to test the market. But some sellers, sometimes they do fail to sell because they take their home off the market because, again, maybe a job location didn't end up occurring. Maybe the home wasn't listed properly by the realtor. Maybe the price was too high. Maybe the condition didn't support the price. So there's always those factors as well. But overall, it's a great sign for you as a seller in today's market to see that number's dropping. And for a buyer, obviously, the way to look at that is it's still a good sign for you as well. Because at the end of the day, if less homes are failing to sell, then it gives you more confidence that you're buying at a good time to where you can also get equity fairly quickly once you get into your new or first or next home. So the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at the days on market for all these homes as it pertains to February. And the first thing we're going to start off is we're going to look at the active listings. And what we see is the median time on market for these active listings was 36 days on the market. Now this is actually a drop off from last month again, and you're going to notice I'm saying drop off quite a bit. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we are starting to get into that spring buying season here in Northeast Florida, specifically Jacksonville, in this case, the Beaches and Southside. And we've had, for the most part, a pretty mild February, and even at times in January, a pretty mild January, which really allowed buyers who sometimes would wait till maybe March or April to decide to pull the trigger sooner to get the home that they wanted because sometimes with that colder weather, it doesn't always help things, but in this case, we didn't have that as much this year. And so the 36 days on market is not surprising because of the fact that there has been more demand since the beginning of the year, and the demand is only starting to really pick back up even further at the time of this video being recorded. Now that being said, the average market for active homes is 36 days. Now, how does that compare to the last 6 months for the homes that actually sold? So 36 days is the median days for active homes, but for the past 6 months, we already know that the median price was $550, but the median days on market for those sold homes was about 33 days. So the active homes are starting to kind of creep back closer to what these sold homes are taking as far as days on market, which is a good sign for you as a seller because it tells you that you're not having to wait as long as maybe you were a couple months ago to get your home under contract and sold. Because at the end of the day, if you do put your home on the market, it's never a great feeling if it's just sitting without getting an offer and a contract. Because at the end of the day, most of you who are watching this video who are looking to sell your house, the goal is to sell it. The goal is not just to have it out there for people to see. The goal is to find the next person, the next family that's gonna love the house the way you did, to then obviously put a contract on it and buy it from you. Now, the other thing we're going to look at is the days on market and the median price for the last 30 days for the sold homes. Because again, we know that sold in the last 6 months was $550. We know the days on market was 33 days. But how does that compare with the last month? Well, in the last month, the median sold price actually did increase from $550 to really like $552. And what you're going to see is that that's going to probably increase even further in the next couple months of videos that we'll be doing on these areas. And ultimately, that's because of the fact that, like I said, there's more buyers coming to the market, and therefore the sellers who do have their homes on the market or putting their homes on the market are getting them under contract quicker now than they were previously in previous months. And we also saw too that days on market for those homes that sold in the last 30 days was 39 days, which, because a lot of homes were sitting in December, January, even going back to November, it was bound to happen that perhaps prices wouldn't increase much, which in this case, they only increased a couple thousand, but it was bound to happen that days on market were just going to increase because a lot of those homes that had been on the market for a while that were now finally getting contracts was going to skew the numbers a little bit for February's data to support that the days on market was going to go up. And what we'll most likely start to see in March and April and May is the days on market is going to probably go down as we start talking more about the last 30 days of data compared to the last 6 months. And so the last 6 months will also start to go up some because they'll start to get some of those longer months of data, like February's is with the 39 days, that will start skewing those a little bit further up. So it wouldn't surprise me if you see 33 go to 35 days on the market, for instance. But as far as for March and April and May, we will probably see days on market come down because that's just what the market is supporting currently, with the fact that there are more buyers on the market. Now, we also do, when we look at this, we like to look at the listed sales ratio for this area. And in this case, listed sales ratio is 98.4%, which is actually a pretty good drop from last month. Last month it was 99.1%. And again, just for reference, it pretty much just means that for every $100,000 a seller is asking for, they're getting roughly $98,400 of that from a buyer with their offer and contract. And ultimately, the reason that we saw this decrease in 98.4 is the same reason we saw the days on market increase for the last month of the data as it pertains to the homes that did sell. And that's because a lot of the homes that are now selling, they're starting to leave the market, are homes that sat for a little bit longer. They had a little more room potentially in their numbers. Maybe they were priced a little bit too high, and so sellers were more willing to negotiate down. And so ultimately, that's not a surprising thing to see 98.4% there. However, we may not see, and again, there's no crystal ball. You never know how it might, occur as we go into future months. But I would not be surprised to see that listed sales ratio come up some as we go into the more busier time of the year, which is the spring and summertime here in Jacksonville. Now, we also saw, the last thing we're going to focus on is the absorption rate for the area. And what that is that's just the months of inventory that we're seeing for the area. And in this case, the months of inventory for the past 6 months was 3.1 months of inventory. So that's going to be a lot of the reason why that's the number it's at, which is higher than it's been previous months, is because of the fact that we're using months of data that ultimately just market was slow. Simple as that. October, November, December, even early in January, market was slow. Sellers are still coming to the market, but the buyers weren't there. And ultimately, what we're going to most likely start seeing is that absorption rate is going to go down in future months now that we're seeing more buyers enter the market, especially in the event the Fed eventually does cut their rates down some. So that's going to be a big indicator as well to see how quickly this absorption rate changes in future months. It's going to be a lot of it based off what the Fed decides to do with their future meetings and future rate cuts. So all in all though, 3.1 months is still a seller's market. It's just not that hyper seller's market we saw in previous years. And 3.1 months just means that if no new homes hit the market, we'd be out of homes to sell, and we'll call it 95 to 100 days, which is not too bad when you really put it in perspective of, for instance, during the recession, we were seeing 12 to 24 months for different areas here in Northeast Florida. So at 3 months, still a seller's market. Just as a buyer, you do have room to negotiate, which is always what you want as a buyer, in my opinion. So next, we are going to look at the table down below. And what I like about this table is it's going to kind of show you the absorption rate for different price ranges. It's going to show you the amount of homes that are active, pending, sold for different price ranges. And ultimately, what it kind of shows you is that as the prices increase in this area, so too does the absorption rate, because of the fact that there are potentially more homes available with less buyers able to go after them. And so ultimately, if you're looking in the Beaches and Southside area and your price point's under 600,000, it's still a pretty competitive market because there's not as much inventory out there. And so ultimately, the good ones are going to go fast. And if a house isn't going super fast, it might be because something's just not sitting right with most buyers' wants and needs. But if you're starting to look in these price ranges of 600 to 800, 800 to a million and up, what you can also see is that there's more options, there's less competition from other buyers, and so you have that ability to potentially negotiate further on your home or on the home you want with the seller, because of the fact that you're not limited to the fact that, okay, if I don't give a seller enough of this now, someone else may, and I could lose the house of my dreams or the house that I really want. So for the higher price points, that is the beauty of this market currently, is even though there is more competition now than there was just a couple months ago with buyers, if you're at the higher price points, you're not seeing that as much, and you have the ability to negotiate further. In lower price points, it just means that if you are looking, again, 2 to 4, 4 to 600,000, you can still find a great house. You just might have to move a little bit quicker to make sure that someone else is taking from you. So if you liked what I went over in this video, like I said earlier in the video, please hit a like on this video, subscribe to our channel, and please ring the bell so you know if I ever post more content like this in the future as we continue to grow our channel, Everything Jax Real Estate, here in Jacksonville, Florida. And if you had any questions as far as anything I went over in this video, any comments you may have, anything that I can help answer for you, in the description of this video is going to be a link to my calendar. Feel free to set the time on my calendar for us to meet face-to-face, through Zoom, or even just a phone call to go over any questions you have as far as it pertains to the market here in Northeast Florida, specifically the Beaches and Southside area, as well as any questions I can help answer from you and your family on the potential of moving to the area and finding the right neighborhood that fits what you and your family are looking for. And until next time, I'll see you guys again on the next market update video.